Okay guys, I promised you a review of this. It's the Ecoflow DELTA 1600. There's lots of reviews online of this. I've looked at them, some very good technical reviews, and I looked at them for this and for lots of other models when I was trying to choose which one to have for the boat. But I want to do this video just about really its applications for the boat, if it's a good thing to have on board and why, you know, what sort of things you'd use it for.
So first of all, what is it? Well, they describe it as a generator, mainly because you can plug a solar panel directly into it and it will store the energy. You can also plug a 12-volt source into it, as well as mains. Then you have a large capacity power source with loads of DC outputs and a pure sine wave inverter for AC. So it's a really versatile power source to have on a boat.
So if we just go through quickly what's on here, we're going to go out at anchor and sort of test it out and see, you know, in real life how it works, because that's, you know, that's the real deal. But first of all, let's quickly just go through what it really is, what it looks like. It has a nice cover to it, which is useful when you're stowing it away down below. If I was being really nitpicky, I'd say let's put a pocket on it or something to keep some of the leads together. I just sort of try and put them on top at the moment, the ones that I use all the time. It's nice and robust. It's not too heavy, so you know you can lift this around. I mean, I took it ashore the other day because I wanted to do a bit of angle grinding. I didn't want that anywhere near the boat or anyone else's boat, so I just went out onto land carrying this, plugged my angle grinder in, job done. You know, I can cut the pipes that I wanted to cut. This is the international version, so it has 4 plug outlets on the back. I think the American one has 6 of the 110 volt ones. Obviously these are 220 volt, and you can put all sorts of different configurations of plug in there. They've quite cleverly done it, so it'll take, you know, UK type plugs and European plugs, whatever, as well. On this side as well, there is this, which is a DC output. It's a regulated output, which is good. They don't all have that, and it's useful. Some of the things that you want to run, you want a good regulated output at 13, you know, over 13 volts, 13.6. I think this one is. We'll measure it later. This is where you charge it up from. So this one has the kettle plug type 3-pin, and it's the, as I say, the European version. So it takes 50 hertz, 220 volt.
And it's completely self-contained. No brick-sized transformer in the power cable, it's just a kettle plug. The transformer is inside, as is the MPPT controller for the solar. A really neat design to get all that incorporated.
And it's really fast. I mean, that's the good thing about this unit. It's not like most of the others, which, you know, you take hours and hours to charge, some of them more than a day to fully charge. This one will fast charge, well, they reckon into just under 2 hours to full, but it'll certainly get to 80% in less than an hour, which is really incredible actually. So useful, you know, if you just get a sniff of some mains somewhere, you can, you know, charge it up nice and quick. You could even take it ashore somewhere and ask someone to plug it in and, you know, have a meal, and in an hour it's done. Take it back if that's what you wanted to do. But for us, what we really want to do is use the solar for it. In the little video I showed you in the episode, we were playing around with it, and this is how we put them out on deck. It comes with a case which quite neatly can be used to lay them out, so you could put it out anywhere you wanted on deck. As well as that, and if you had a lot of deck space, certainly if you had a motorboat, you've got these little suction things. It comes with this little packet of little suction clamps, so you could just, if you had, you know, lots of normal fiberglass deck space, sort of stick it to the deck there. But actually for ours, I've come up with this. Playing around in the last few days, I thought, well, you know, it's perfect to actually just clip it to one of the guardrails. It's great because it literally takes, you know, no more than a minute to put up. I can just leave the strings on there now and just chuck it up really quickly whenever I want it. So I've just put a couple of little clips on with bungees, really easy, and yeah, you should be able to position this or somewhere on the boat always to be out of shadow. That's a good thing about it, and you can you know, obviously just bring it up to the right height to be at the right angle, have it inside or outside either side. So yeah, it should be really, I think, an efficient way of using the solar panels and pack away really quickly. Obviously they're waterproof, so it doesn't matter if you get a bit of rain on them, you could leave them out for your anchor for some time. If you can see, but they're all sort of quite a bobbly type design on these things. It almost looks like non-skid, but I don't think it is that. I don't think they're designed to be trodden on like the way some sort of flexible panels are. The cases look quite nice. They zip up, small, easy to pack away. So yeah, that's great for the boat. So if you wanted to leave the solar panels out fairly long term and have the box down below, you could get some longer leads made up. This is 14 gauge that they've put on here, which is, is enough with the short length they've got. But if you're going to go longer, I would get a thicker gauge than that, and yeah, you could lead it down through a deck seal or something and keep it going, pretty much full time. So to get the power in, it comes with one of these XT60 leads, and it's got some MC4s on the end of it, which is the standard thing for solar panel. So you can plug it into your existing solar panel if you wanted, or buy some of these really neat fold out ones. I think probably the sweet spot for that would be to have 3 of them, because it can take 65 volts or 10 amps. You don't want to exceed either of those, so just work out how you've got them in series or parallel, whether you're going to exceed either the 65 volts or the 10 amps, and you can sort of try and maximize that. So I say for theirs, they're 110 watt panels, so 3 of those in series will probably be the sweet spot. For this I've got 2, and that's plenty actually, because from what I've done so far, even here in February in Venice, if I had them out all day I'd get a full charge. So you can't really say fairer than that. That's pretty good going. I think in the middle of summer I could probably get away with just having 1. So on the DC side, it's got 4 good outputs on USB and some USB-Cs as well, which actually for modern laptops, my laptop now takes USB-C, so that's really good. It'll be able to charge it from that and keep up. I can do it through a cigarette lighter type adapter or straight on the boat, but it won't keep up with me while I'm editing. It doesn't quite have enough power. This will have enough power. We'll test it all out, as I say, when we go out. But yeah, you can just turn them on from here. You turn the whole unit on here first of all, and then here we'll have a look at the display, which is really clear, I think, really good when we're using it. I've still got the sticker on it here. I'll take that off. So from the research I did, this worked out best for the features it's got, and price and quality. But when I rang up Ecoflow to ask them about some technical details, they actually sent us this one for testing. So for us, it's obviously one good thing. It saved us some money, but also I think it's a good thing because it means they believe in their product. I mean, we can say what we like about this. There's no constraints on the review that we're going to do. They just trust it to be a fair review, and I think if they trust in their product well enough to give it to someone like us to test and say what we think about it, then that's great. But they're not going to get away with any special treatment. I'm going to still look for any problems that we can find. First of which, their writing in the manual is really small. I need my glasses. Now look, the worst thing specs wise with this is 800 cycles it's stated at, down to 60%. So you can go through full range of 800 cycles with this and only have 60% battery capacity left at the end of that time, which is quite short really. I mean, I think it's a function of the fact that it can charge up so quickly, and there's something's got to give somewhere. So if you're going to use this for something like a remote cabin where you've got a solar panel on the roof and you were charging this up every day, using it every evening, then 2 and a bit years and it's sort of down 60% capacity, it wouldn't be really that usable. But for us, I mean, I'm going to use it 2 or 3 times a week maximum, full range through. That's cruising full time. So if you work that out, that would take over, well, it would take 10 years to over 10 years to actually get down 60%. So absolutely fine for us, that sort of stat.
The important bit is what it can power and for how long. Computers are a constant drain for us. They take more energy than you think, especially if you're doing it the wasteful way using the inverter. The Delta can supply multiple computers direct from DC, a real advantage. Lockdown has meant we can't go out at anchor at the moment, but we are disconnecting the shore power and relying on the Ecoflow for a few nights. So that means kitchen appliances. It copes with the high draw items really well. Our powerful 2 kilowatt fan heater was the only thing it struggled with. Even the dehumidifier was no problem. This is a bit of a random, unscientific test, but the Delta looked after our needs for 2 nights without any recharging in between.
So I plugged the shore power back in, so we'll have a little go at charging it with mains and see how that does. This is the really fast charge mode. It'll take a little while to ramp up, but you'll hear the fans start. It'll get a little bit noisy when it's really charging, and you've got to watch out for heat with something like this as well. If you're in the tropics, you don't want it sort of out in the heat. You certainly don't want it out sort of in the sun while you're charging it as well. If you're out on deck doing the even with the solar, I'd stick it in the shade somewhere. You can hear it ramp up there, and now look, it's really quite impressive how fast this does do it. At the moment it's saying 2 hours, but that's going to go down. Look, 1 hour now, that's full charge. So that's telling you how long it's going to take to charge up to full capacity. And you can see it's taking 650 watts in at the moment. You can see that little symbol is just to say the fan is going. But that's quite impressive, and that'll keep ramping up. It can charge at 1200 watts maximum, which is really very impressive. You can also still use it while it's charging. If we just get computer to try plugging it in the DC side, DC's on, and put it in the USB-C socket. Now these USB-Cs are really quite impressive. You can get a lot of power of that. It's showing you when that's in. Let's turn it on. It'll show you that it's got one plugged in by this little symbol here. So USB-Cs are good for this, really high powered, but this, it's incredible. It can take 60 watts. It can supply 60 watts, so more than enough for your biggest computer. Anything else you want to put in there? It's got fast charge USBs as well. They're rated at 28 watts, and the normal ones are 12 watts. And you've also obviously got the cigarette lighter as well. We get a good regulated 13.6 volts. That's really, really powerful. 110 watts you can get out of that at 8 amps. For a real test then, let's put a massive load on this and put a fan heater into the AC side of it as well. Now the AC power is rated at 1800 watts. It can do a peak of 3300, but I've managed to, on its own, just trip it out with this. This is really quite a powerful heater on full blast. It can't quite cope with it on its own. It's normally running this at 3/4 power when I'm running directly from this. If I try it on full power, it's too much for it. It goes into overload. But if I do it now, turn it right up, it can cope with it. Actually, it's very good circuitry in here, because it deliver all it can from the battery, but if it's plugged in, it'll bypass that and do it directly as well. Look, I'll turn it right up. I can get almost a kilowatt out of this. On the output, it's putting 1600 watts in, and I'm taking a kilowatt out. And that's pretty good going for this. And you can just keep delivering that, and it still says it's going to fully charge in an hour. But obviously mains is of limited interest to us as sailors, because we're not going to have it most of the time out at anchor. It's mainly going to be solar, and also plugging into the 12-volt system of the boat. So let's plug that in. That's an XT60 as we saw earlier, and you can see we're now getting 122 watts input at the moment from the boat. That's 16 watts output for the laptop. I can take that out, that'll disappear. I mean, it's something that you can use all the time if you're it's extra capacity. If you're motoring for more than a couple of hours and your house bank get up to 80%, then there's nowhere for that to go. We talked about this in for the same way charging the electric motor that we have, our outboard motor. I'm going to use that battery and this as battery to, whenever we've got spare electricity, whether that's from motoring for a long time or from solar after midday, or when you're on a good sunny day when you've already got your house banks up, it's just wasted energy. So by plugging this in, it can it can do that job for you. And I'm actually going to take the cigarette lighter socket off the end of these. They're not the best thing in the world, because they'll get warm if they're used for a long time. If they start to get rusty and just not very good contact, then they'll heat up. In fact, the inside of my socket there, when I've took it apart to have a look, because I'm going to wire in an XT60 socket to plug straight into, and I can see it's already melted a bit in there, probably from this boat's 20 years old. It's probably happened a long time before when someone's had high current coming out there. It can take 10 amps. I mean, that can create some heat. So I'm going to put a different connector, the XT60s. These are rated much higher than 10 amps. I think they're rated 50 or 60 amps, these things. So that'll be fine. And I'm actually going to put a little voltage sensitive relay in there as well, so that it can be sort of semi-automatic. I can leave it plugged in and any time that the batteries in the boat are receiving charge, if it's from solar or from the engine running, this will switch in. This will switches over at 13.5 volts. This one, so it knows there's a charge, and it'll be charging this as well as the batteries if I've got it plugged in. So yeah, it's going to hopefully that'll work really well for me. So who's this useful for then? Well, it's definitely going to be useful for us because we've got a broken generator and a broken inverter, and we can't get the inverter delivered to us. It's a problem that all yachties have if something goes down. This is a great backup. Belt and braces is always good on a boat. So even by next winter, when we hopefully will have a good big battery bank in, whether that's lithium or a bigger lead acid battery, this will be a backup for us. And for lithium, they've got these battery management systems that can, if they go wrong, just cut you off. So really good belt and braces to have something like this aboard. Or if you're on a boat that hasn't got an inverter, I mean, the inverter that we're buying for this boat is £800, so that's most of the cost of this. You might decide this might be a better thing than buying an inverter for the boat. It's extra battery capacity as well. It's portable, so it gives you other options. So I think on the whole, really good thing to have on a boat.